And Darcy, if you want to call the roll, please.
Engelhardt,
Here.
Engstrom, Malcolm,
Here.
Marr, Moore.
All right, thank you. Item 3 then is the Pledge of Allegiance. So everybody that's able to stand, please stand and we'll recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item 4 then is perfection and approval of the agenda. Somebody like to make a motion, please?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Ross, did you hear us?
Yep.
Could you vote on that motion for the agenda?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, item 5 and then is public comment time. Anybody from the public want to shout at us? Christy, go ahead.
So I just wanted to thank you guys again for your interest in Child Care Center, and I thought I would just do updates. So we had a tour of Postville Child Care Center and Becky attended. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all.
I think you can probably cover it, but it was very impressive.
Any takeaways that you?
Well, I think that, I think it's Chaim Abrams, is that his last name? He seemed very interested in trying to help out with the childcare. And of course, Hall Roberts has kind of already been involved with that. And I went away feeling really good about that because I think that they, Agra would like to be involved in helping maybe their employees able to afford childcare.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, that as far as that goes, I mean, it was an awesome tour and I enjoyed attending it very much. And thank you.
I appreciate you coming. I think what gave me some hope was just that people are having conversations such as, I didn't know you were doing this here and you guys are professionals and this is ran like a school. So those are things that we're trying to do and educate the community on is what we're actually doing there. So it's helpful to have people come in and do tours so that they can see that. So thank you.
No, you're welcome.
We're doing a summer camp right now. That's our next thing. And we want to be able to do that to give back to the community so that we can offer a place while kids don't have school to go somewhere. We're offering the meals. We have fun activities as well as curriculum. So we're doing that as a way to give back to the community. And because of the sponsorship that we received, we're able to offer it at a reduced price. So typically our 3-day rate for the age groups that we're doing is around $100, $113, and we're able to offer it at $60. We're very excited about that.
That's cool.
Just updates. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I appreciate you keeping us updated, number one, and that you're so passionate about what you're doing. And I think that shows in what happens in your school. And I think that's great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then item 6 is zoning code, tiny homes, and Mr. Pat Stone. Come on up, Pat.
Summaries are ready, but I guess the planning and zoning approved this. Wanted me to come and talk about them.
Yes, and some questions.
I have quite a couple of the questions I have are some questions that came up, I think, from the attorney. And it said, are you having any trouble at all getting utilities into there, like plumbing or electrical and anything like that?
It's
I mean, as far as, no, just, private, it's sometimes they're difficult to connect to the utilities. I mean, you already have utilities out in at the trailer park, right? So.
We put more sewer and water lines in.
Right, so then that includes where the tiny home is going.
Yeah, and then we have electric lines that we're waiting on a line to.
Right, to get it hooked up. Okay, and then another thing, when I asked you about, excuse me, if it was going to be, for rent or for sale, and you said it could be either, but I think what they are thinking that resale is difficult anyway, because of not a lot of people maybe want one, so I think rental is probably better for you, as long as you do it that way. I think that was all I had for questions.
You guys have the pictures there, not very pretty, but there'd be, in the original drawing, there'd be a 6 or an 8 foot deck off the front of it. And then
Now, is the front on this side, one of these sides, or is
the
this
other end.
the other end?
Yeah. Should be a walkway. I don't know. I didn't take the pictures, so just had her. take them.
These aren't on wheels,
Hmm.
right? These are not on wheels, right?
It's not, well, it's sitting on a trailer, but it won't be on the, yeah.
So will what kind of foundation will it have?
Cement, it'll be set up like a trailer house, basically. We'll put some sort of skirting around the outside of it, it'll be on cement
Slab, it'll be on.
pillars
Okay.
and blocked up and fastened down.
So you were saying that you haven't had a problem bringing like the plumbing and electrical to the lot itself. But then once it comes to inside the tiny home itself,
Mhm.
what code or regulations would they be going by?
It'll be all inspected.
But what codes would they be going by? Because right now, I guess, I'm not in the construction business, so excuse my ignorance, but what kind of regulations or codes would they be going according to?
The Iowa electrical code would be inspected that way, and that would be the only utilities that would be in it other than water. And of course, you'd have to have the minimum egress window and ways out, but it's only one room, so
So is there an official code that goes for the tiny homes?
not specifically for them, but it would be a housing code. Standard.
It's the same as it would be for a trailer.
Yeah, so your house, egress windows and so it's habitable.
So has the building inspector, I guess either in Postville, or I don't know how it goes, if it goes by county or whatever, but has the building inspector agreed that the housing code would,
I don't think we have a building inspector now.
or housing inspector, I don't know, what's it called?
He wouldn't have
inspector?
gotten involved in this yet
Okay.
because it's not allowed.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, have you, when you were building it, have you gotten any, I guess, confirmation from the, what is it called then? Not a building inspector, or
It's built to all building standard codes, to my knowledge, I guess.
I mean, I don't doubt it, but I mean, are the codes regulated though for tiny homes? Because things change a lot when they're so small. I mean, are they standard like, fridge, freezer, toilets, are they all standard size in there?
I guess maybe we're on a different page of tiny home. Basically, it's just a small efficiency apartment that's portable. Or it's a room in your house. It'd be like if you took your kitchen and put a bathroom next to it and everything's built the same way it would be in your house.
Right.
I don't have any gas lines going to it or furnaces. It has an on-demand electric water heater.
Is that inside the tiny home or on the
Yep.
exterior?
Inside.
Inside, okay.
And it's built out of SIP panels. We just built the US Cellular building and walk on. It's built out of the same materials. And then like the bar and water bill is the SIP panels. It's basically like a walk-in cooler. The whole thing is, I mean, you could turn it into a walk-in cooler,
Okay.
but it's that energy efficient.
Okay. I guess when I was doing research into the tiny homes, I guess that probably brings us to like asking you that perhaps we need like a proper definition of what constitutes the tiny home. Because I think even if we were going to look at an ordinance like for one-time exception, let's say, or to make it a standard ordinance in Postville, I think it's very important that we have a definition of what constitutes a tiny home. Because if we don't, I think there could be a danger in the future, even if it's an exception, but then there could be a danger to people how that becomes open to interpretation. You know, somebody could come in and put 4 pieces of plywood together
Yeah.
and say, well, that's my tiny home.
Yeah, I
So
think,
if it's just by square footage or whatever, you know what I mean?
you know, the square footage, I think the definition of it is like from 200 to 600 square feet or something like that is considered a tiny home. And maybe in your ordinance, if you had it, so it had to be meet the Iowa building codes for egress and, I guess I personally wouldn't, I would think this is way better than, we wouldn't want to put the camper style ones in there.
Right.
And if we did, I would say that would go back to the rule of a conditional use permit or the yearly, whatever your ordinance is there, where you have to move it within a year's time and it can't go back there. I think the tiny homes that you're thinking of, in my mind, would be considered a camper.
Does the Iowa building code does it apply to such a minimum square footage as what you're talking about?
I would assume so, yes. I mean, we got 36-inch doors in it, we got egress windows. Everything that I know that needs to be built to code is built that way, and it'll be inspected by basically the only inspections we have is electrical inspections that are enforced or pursued, I guess.
And what about like insurance? Have you run into any issues with insurance as far as homeowners insurance?
I have insurance on the structure. I think we got 50,000 on it right now, just because that's what they have in it. And
Well, then they would be responsible for homeowners or renters insurance to insure the stuff that they have inside.
yeah, so or if they damage their property.
Yeah, the property, yeah.
Well, there's not any equitable value into it as far as maybe going to a bank. It may be hard to get money for them, but I guess that's not. I guess the point that I'm getting at is the trailer park right now, we could pull in a 40-foot crappy 60-year-old 1960s model trailer and put it there, which I would guarantee you would be less safe than what these structures would be, or this particular one. And the only thing holding us back from that is the ordinance that we have that is too small to meet the requirements. Otherwise, theoretically we could put this here and then move it to the next lot if it was approved next year. So I just like to have it so we didn't have to move it every year.
So these are brand new, you just built them, right? So everything is new construction, so.
And I think that in the city's perspective of it, looking at your angle, you're kind of protected because it's in the trailer park. And if you did the zoning so it was only in whatever the zoning is for the trailer park, you don't have any danger of somebody putting up a 4x4 shack or a plywood in their backyard or anything like that, which they would still have to get a building permit for that anyway, as would we if we had to move one in or we're going to build one on site or whatever in the trailer park.
Are you gonna limit the minimum amount of people that can live in it?
I don't know how you would regulate that.
Well, like at R1 is a single family home, you can have so many people per bedroom or whatever. I would think that you wouldn't want any more than two people.
How do you enforce it? I mean,
Well,
Doesn't that go
Yeah,
by
that's
building
not-
code as
that's-
well, like how many people can be per square foot?
that's something that I would not be able to enforce. And I would
no,
just,
we could, as a city, could enforce it if there's an issue, but you could come to us.
You know, any other questions on it?
Have you got any idea, Pat, how many of these you would be thinking?
Well, I'm not for sure. This would be the first one to see how it goes, to see how much money we lose on it when we put it in there. My thought process on it would be at least 4 of them that went good, and I would build them on site. And like the next one, this would be the smallest one. Like say the next one, we would add a bedroom onto the back side of that. And then we'd go a little bit wider, and we'd build them over 16 foot wide, so in case they did want to move them, it'd be easy to move. And they would all be under 800 square feet, I would say. I don't know, it's kind of leaving it that way. If we thought about putting this one over here, if we have a really small lot.
Yeah.
We weren't even going to have a lot, we're going to call that lot 0 now. And if you guys don't want to do it, we'll still have it for campers or smaller trailer houses.
I'd rather see a tiny home than a camper. It's more, it seems like it's more friendly.
We're trying to clean it up too. We have one more house up there that the owner moved out or it's kind of abandoned, but we're going through the process of that. We had 2 up there that were troublesome since we bought it. We're down to 1 now. The person's not living there, but it's a crappy place and needs to be torn down. The other one that was in there, we're remodeling that one. That'll look nice when we get done with it. It's a work in progress, but I think there's a vast improvement from what it was till now. We moved in another, I don't know, 1 or 2 this year. I don't know. Trailer houses. The last one came pretty nice. Bought that on the Prairie. The one owner, we just upgraded. I think there's a demand for housing for sure. I mean, there are people wanting to rent them before we're even close to having them done.
Well, that's good news.
I think it has a lot to do with the clientele of your renters too. Like some of the people that were good renters that they carried over made lots of comments about the quality of their neighbors and what they have to put up with, and that's why I think that it decreased in trailers and renters there now, because it was the good people moved out. Just putting that bluntly, because they didn't want to deal with the neighbors and everything there.
Can you speak to the, maybe the risk of like increase like fire risk or whatever in such a small area, having like standard size stove or whatever it is, like in such a small area? Because that, as I understand it, I think like the National Fire Protection Association, whatever they're called, I guess, I mean, you're saying this isn't a tiny home like the little ones on TV, but I guess if we're calling it a tiny home or just something of this square footage, they were just saying that there is like an increase in the risk and then having to follow like fire safety regulations or whatever it is, and then also like to the, I guess, increased risk of mold in such a small area.
Oh, definitely, yeah. You'll probably have an air exchanger in that because it's so airtight also. Because the mold comes from that it heats up too quickly or cools down too quickly. They don't exchange the air. For those concerns though, then I point you back to some of the trailer houses that we've remodeled that are leaking water and they're almost uninhabitable in some of these places that are in there. So that's all goes with the cleanliness of the person that's living there. Too. Obviously, if you see mold or something like that, and then we should address that or take care of it. I wouldn't want to put anybody in the house that's unsafe.
I mean, and that's you, because you would take care of that. Like you were saying, we keep an eye on the renters, but I think if we pass an ordinance in the future, somebody else who's not as careful as you, if they build one, let's say following these specifications based on yours, because you're a trailblazer here basically. So, and I commend you for that. I think that's amazing. But I think, you know, it becomes open to interpretation. Somebody in the future who might not be as careful as you, and you know, won't follow as many safety practices perhaps as you are. I think that's, you know, that opens up the whole Pandora's box of possible increased risk.
Maybe can I say something about that? I'm thinking that we're going to only allow this in R3, which you're the only property in town that's R3 as far as I know. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That I don't think that we would have a problem as long as if somebody else were to buy it, then there might be. He just bought it. I don't think he's going to sell it anytime.
There's no other lots available in the art.
Well, no, it's just where his trailer
This
park
Darcy?
is, that whole section. Trailers
Okay.
he
So
owns,
there's no other area that anybody can come in and build the tiny home.
and that without permission from the city,
Right, but so if we give permission to Mr. Stone,
for him to do it.
right, and then so what's to stop somebody else from coming in?
Well,
asking for
it's
permission
going to
in
be
that
probably
zone.
stated that it's going to be for R3 only, and they would be in a different zone.
Correct, yeah. So the only R3 district is the mobile home park.
Right.
So if you were gonna modify your ordinance to allow a tiny home, you would only allow it in an
In
R3
that
district.
R3, yeah.
Right. And there's still space available for somebody else to come in and ask to build one in the R2 district.
But
But
he
it would be
owns all of
his,
the R3.
that's all his
Okay.
property.
Yeah.
He's the only owner of the mobile home park in its entirety. Yeah,
But What is the ordinance, 800 square feet or less?
You mean as far as the mobile home? or-
Yeah, that was the stickler here, I think.
The size of that is.
In order to put a trailer in the mobile home park or structure, I believe it had to be greater than or equal to 800 square feet.
Probably, something like
Not
that.
including overhangs or cracks or anything like that. So theoretically, I could build something 800 square feet and not have to just get a building permit from the city. Only difference is it's smaller than 800 square feet. We still have the same concerns with something that was 800 square feet potentially as.
Most of them are like 16 by 24. I
And
mean,
then,
that's 384 square feet.
and then the safety concerns of it though would fall back to the landlord also. If we had unsafe, I mean, look at the building down in Dubuque that fell down there. That city, I don't know, maybe they are in trouble with that. I don't know, maybe they have an inspector, but it's all gonna fall back onto the landlord. They have unsafe conditions for their tenants.
Minimum size of a mobile home structure, 12 by 50.
12 by 57 square feet.
Somewhere in there. I haven't got my calculator.
12 by 50.
By 50,
By 50.
12 by 50, 600. So,
What other concerns would you have about it? What is the safety?
I guess my concern isn't really like, viewpoint and safety. Like I say, I think if it's unregulated or it's not going according to a specific code, that for something of this size, then I think it's setting a precedent for someone, if you leave, let's say, or whatever, for somebody else to come in and to expect to be given the same, or to follow the same ordinance.
Well, once it's established, say you guys passed this, and I put 5 of them in there or something in there for rentals. You guys do have an ordinance where you have a rental inspector that comes and it has to meet 5 guidelines. They're quite stringent. I can say so myself. I mean, little things like there's not a spring in the window. So that would be your protection or your fallback for that if it's a rental. And if it's a homeowner that owns it, you have really no regulation over whether they want to be safe in their own home or not. If it's a rental, they have the expectation of the landlord to improve the property to make sure it's safe for them. But so I think after, to address your concern, you'd have to also pass the rental inspection in order to legally have it as a habitable domain.
Have you had this building like inspected by a buildings inspector or whatever, as far as like the
No,
materials go?
it would have to be installed, and then they come, they
Only
notify
once
the-
it's installed?
and then they'll come and look at it and tell you if your steps are right or if your windows are working properly. And there's a whole longer list of safety things that they look at.
Did you by any chance speak to, before like embarking on this project, did you by any chance speak to the building inspector or whatever to find out if they have a set of guidelines that they'll go by that would
Yeah,
apply to this?
I didn't speak to them, but they go off of the HUD standard for your, there's a whole longer list of the same quality rentals and other units like that. That's the standard that they go off of, that would have to meet those requirements. I mean, and to be honest with you, they're not really logical in some of them.
Right, I know.
I mean, for example, we had a house where we walked in there and the windows, they have to stay up. That's part of the, the old houses, windows, and they don't stay up, like people put a stake under them
Yeah.
or whatever. So the regulation is you have to have at least one window that stays up. So instead of leaving it so it doesn't stay up, you can put a screw in it. If there's 2 windows in there, you can screw it shut so it doesn't open, and that meets the requirements as long as you have one that stays up. So
I know there's a lot of regulations that drive you crazy, but I'm saying something completely unregulated is, just as, I guess,
And then the electrical inspection, you can't get power turned on anything unless it's inspected. I know I was talking to some friends in Lansing that said that people remodel these garden sheds from Menards or whatever that they have in a pasture or something, want to run power to them, but they won't turn the power on because they haven't been inspected by an electrician here. They're pretty stringent on that, and that's more than likely where your fires are gonna start from unless you start yourself off. If you guys did pass the ordinance, how long would it take for it to be regulated so we could move forward with it? Would be another thing we choose to go forward with.
Well, the
It
procedure.
depends if they want to take it to full 3 readings. So they would first have to set the public hearing for the zone to change their zoning ordinance. They could do that tonight if they so choose for the next council meeting to have their first reading. If they didn't waive, if they waived the second, third, it would, as soon as it's published, it would become code. But if you let it go for 3 readings, it could be fall.
Well, we're out a little ways anyway, but and if it's something that the city didn't want to do, it's not going to affect us one way or another either. But you would be the first city in the state of Iowa to have an ordinance specifically for tiny homes, as far as I know.
We have to make a move or what?
That's up to you.
Yeah,
If you
it's
want-
up to you guys.
I move that we accept the tiny home in the R3 district
And set a public hearing for your
and set
zoning.
a public hearing for when?
Their first reading would be your next council meeting in
Okay.
July.
Well,
So what are we saying is a tiny home? Anything that's smaller than how many square feet?
Yeah,
Because I think we need like the definition in the ordinance. I know,
Maximum 8,000.
Maybe I make a suggestion that really the only thing holding back on this particular issue is to maybe changing the minimum requirement for the R3 district from 700 square feet to 200, or allowing it for less than that.
how many square feet is this one you're built?
Yeah, it's 240, I think.
And this is one person.
Or I guess 2 could stay in there if you really liked each other.
yeah, that was-
No, not me.
Hey, Ross, are you catching any of this?
It's hard to, but I'm just about pulling in here.
Okay, all right.
So I have-
Are you coming into the chambers?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. Okay.
and what about as far as like storm shelters or emergency shelters?
It's grandfathered in that it's not required for us in the R3 district. If you go to new one, you'd have to. I'd be willing to work with the city for grant process to put something in there.
Sure.
Well, I think that's where we need to go. Yeah. I'm thinking that, you're going to continue to add spaces there. And to protect folks, I think that's where we need to go here. So,
I don't know where is this the storm shelter or where's the storm shelter?
The Turner Hall right next to the fire station.
Not that far.
good to see you.
Does something of this size also, can it withstand the same strong winds as something
More.
that can stand? it
It's
can
3
withstand
times more shear factor on the walls. And it's got like 2.5 or 3 times more bearing on the walls also. It's not a 2x4 construction, it's structurally insulated panels and it's very well built.
I'm wondering if we should maybe call these like smaller or like class B or something, mobile homes, because I guess using the word tiny home, what comes up in everybody's mind is what they see on TV, and it's like a niche and a fad, and they're very cute, and everybody likes it. But I think those have a whole set of their own risks and problems. that they don't show you on TV. And it doesn't sound like, it sounds like you've answered all those sort of typical issues that come with tiny homes. So maybe we should be calling them tiny homes if the only difference of what's there right now, those mobile homes, is just that this is a bit smaller. And you're saying, towards, because I know like that National Fire Agency or whatever, they were saying that tiny homes can only withstand winds like up to 45 miles an hour or whatever. And so they have to have extra
Well,
connections to the.
that's,
So I think we just have to have a clearer outer definition or name for what
Just
it is
call
that
it
we're
Pat
allowing.
Stone Home.
Yeah.
but, like what you're saying with the wind withstanding it, it's all on the materials that it's built on also. So
Right, but
One
who's
survey
going
would
to
say this-
enforce and regulate that? What do we have to enforce? Because again, when you're looking at the tiny homes on TV, right now, there is no standard code of regulation that
I tell you
governs that.
what I would do, I don't know if I would expect anybody else, but this one here particularly wasn't, because I built it out of leftover materials that I had from other jobs, and I added some to it. But moving forward, if we were to continue adding these homes to them, the company that I'm a dealer for, the homes are engineered to the specs and qualifications of our county and an area for snow loads, wind loads, and all of that. So each one of them would be engineered to the specifications and codes of the state of Iowa in our region for snow loads, wind, and ratings like
So I
that.
think that's very important that we put that in the ordinance, just not leave it up to, again, I say like your standards, in the construction business, I'm sure up to the highest standard, but somebody else coming in, hypothetically, even though there's no place for them. But I think it's very important that we put in the ordinance or in the small fine print, exactly what we're talking about when we say tiny home.
To meet your concern, I think if you put in there that it has to meet all state and local building codes.
Right, but the state of Iowa doesn't have building codes that go to these tiny homes like on TV, that's what I'm saying. So I think we're using the word tiny home maybe misplaced, because right now, as far as I understand, there's just one organization called the National Organization for Alternative Homes that has started, and it claimed to be the first and only one that have started some design standards and regulations for them. So that's for those typical tiny homes that you see on TV. So if the code of Iowa that you're talking about, if it does go for this, which I assume it does because you built it, then I think we need to just change the name or not call
Small
it a tiny home
home.
or call it a smaller mobile home or
Compact.
compact,
Mini-
whatever,
mini
class
home.
B. Yeah,
Mini home.
right. Because the minute we call it tiny home and then you have people jumping on the fad of wanting to get those little tiny homes that they see on TV and thinking,
The only thing that I like to argue a little bit, but there's nothing in your ordinance now keeping somebody from pulling in a tiny home, just like you're saying. I could pull one, go to the city and say, I want a 1-year conditional use permit. I could put 5 of those there and then move them around the next year. They're basically campers. They're double-decker campers is what I'd call the tiny homes that you're speaking of. So the concerns that you have are still could be there no matter how much you try and word it.
that's true. I mean, we'll always have somebody who can open it up to interpretation, but I think that's part of the hesitation that other towns and cities in Iowa have had, is just sort of being like the forerunners of something that hasn't been done before and that doesn't have a set. If you have something that's unregulated, then obviously, if a contractor comes in and makes something and it's not going according to some code that goes for it, the person is left legally, out in the cold.
And I see exactly where you're coming from, but I think to remedy that, if you put it in your ordinance that this tiny home or whatever you'd like to call it has to meet all state and local building codes.
Right.
That would eliminate the
Absolutely.
tiny homes that you are
Absolutely,
referring to, regardless of what you
absolutely.
refer, what the definition or how you interpret it, because whatever that structure is would have to be.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
those
So if your
standards.
structure meets those codes, then it's not the classic tiny home that I guess I've had in my mind, or perhaps we have from TV, because those tiny homes do not have a set of code or regulations that go to it. So perhaps the word tiny home is wrong. So if this can pass, and it has, and it will, inspection and code and regulations and safety and all that stuff, and like you're saying, against natural disasters and things like that, like with one, then I think one of the things that we should work on or change is the definition of what we're calling a tiny home. You know, Postville's tiny home is not the one you see on HGTV or whatever. Yeah. So I guess that's just my thoughts.
I think what she's saying is you made a motion to set a public hearing to allow, but I think maybe you guys want to work on an ordinance before you're setting a public hearing based on what you're saying. I think
Okay.
your next meeting, you want to look at a draft
Okay.
ordinance from
That
the
sounds
city
like a good
attorney.
idea.
So do you want to make a motion to
Okay, I'll
amend?
make a motion that next meeting we will look at a draft of the ordinance for the possibility of using a compact mini, so-called tiny home.
Efficiency.
Well, I think-
I'm just saying it can open us up to, I think, a lot of problems if we keep using a term that's
That's,
perhaps representing something else.
Well, your mind is going to tiny homes.
Yeah, well, because that's what it says.
That's, yeah, but this is, like you say, if you just came up with a different name.
Mhm.
you know, but-
Well, it makes me feel a little sad because I wanted Postville to be the first one to have an ordinance for tiny homes in the state of Iowa.
Not the ones you see on TV.
So we've got a motion,
Amended motion.
amended motion. So is there a second for that one?
Second it.
All right, Ross. Any further discussion? It's just a regular vote.
Will I have to be here for that next meeting?
No, I think
Not
we're,
unless you want to be.
yeah, I think we're good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say no. Carried.
Thank you, guys.
Yep, thank you. All right, item 7 is the Hardin subdivision. Mr. Erdman, come on up.
If I can do this in a way that everybody kind of can tell what we're talking about. I have some larger boards that are not what you're getting handed out. These, the council copies are color copies with a larger area shown, just to kind of give you a placement, kind of location where we're going. And so these two look very similar. They are slightly different, as are the two boards that that I'll set up here, just maybe on the corners of the office desk and wherever I need. But at least I do that.
These are extras of that one.
What we're talking about. And we're gonna not take the time up and apologize for that.
That's a different version.
So work. I'll try to.
Here's a different version.
Thank you.
These
I
are
will
the same.
hold them up.
I think that one's different. Yeah, that one's a different.
You want to use a chair or something? man?
I can do that. I'm sure.
Are these all the
That
same?
helps.
Those two are different. But yeah, these are.
Again, they're very similar. They're not exactly the same.
See that one?
But hopefully they're bigger so that you can kind of tell what the conversations,
That's
what the conversation's about. The reason that I put them on a smaller map, bigger map maybe was the easier way to say it, is smaller, and is to kind of give a location and what's around it, because that's a little bit of a discussion that I wanted to try to begin tonight. We have not, we meant to talk about these yet, so this is the first time, so I'm thinking sort of in two parts. One, to try to talk about the site in general and kind of how to make the site work. It's about 28 acres, and so it's a large site, and there's a variety of different things to do to make the site work. The other would be then to talk about how the lot configurations might work within it, and what options you might have in terms of things like lot sizes and street configurations, and maybe how the site, how its lots work relative to what's going on in the 28 acres. So as far as the site itself goes, maybe the thing that became apparent when we started talking about this, and Chris Hackman and I talked a little bit about it, is sewer, because sewer is a large part of how to make this viable when we look at how we would sewer the home lots. Today, at the very north end, on the top of the two maps, on the sides, there is a lift station. And as I understand it from Chris, that's a lift station who's not, it's not his favorite. And it's one that probably has done its job, and that someday it would be replaced. And that on the south end of the site, near the pond that you see, the lake, there is a new lift station that you've constructed a number of years ago. There's a little driveway, a little circle there, just on the downstream side of the dam. That would be the target for a replacement sewer to go to that lift station, and then everything would be pumped back up from that one together. And that's fairly critical because the site itself, and maybe I'll just grab one of these. The site itself in this upper third, so the narrow part, that can be sewered and probably brought back to the Hardin Drive lift station that's there today. So as a first phase, it would be a choice that we could start, depending on how much you want to take on in each phase. And I'm assuming phases, just because 28 acres is a pretty good sized site, and it probably typically wouldn't happen all at once. So those north, in what I'm showing, about a half a dozen to 10 lots could be brought back north, and then one day those could be bypassed and everything would be brought back to the south. So as we look at how the site might evolve, that's one thing to keep in mind. The two subdivisions that you're looking at look relatively similar, and it's always odd to show up with number 2 and number 3. Everybody wonders what happened to number 1. Number 1, I started with a little more conventional gridiron style street setup, and it just doesn't fit the terrain very well. I mean, there's too many problems, I think, with doing that. And instead of just throwing it away and renumbering everything, I just decided I'm going to keep that because it was at least an exercise where we learned something. But I think 2 and 3 are probably more the direction for the streets and for how the site would be set up to try to take advantage of the terrain. So the northern part, that northern third we talked about, there's a high ground area there next to the cemetery, which would be on the left side of the north arrow, and the rest of the drawing is on these, would be the cemetery area. The lower 2/3 then is a high ridge where you also have a secondary road potentially out of that over to the west aspect of the drive. So in those configurations, the challenge is the northern narrow part is tough to do more than just one street. And the other trick usually in this is trying not to have too much street. You would like, both of these coincidentally are just about 50 lots. And I think ideally that number is probably low. The lots that you're looking at on the sheets are generally 10,000 to 15,000 square feet, so the smaller ones are about 10,000. And your ordinances you've been discussing will allow in the R1 an 8,000 square foot lot. And I started a little bigger just because of the depth of the lots. When they don't have 2 streets in that northern part, for example, the lots get a little deep, the sizes get a little bigger. But it feels to me like to make it viable and to make it work out financially, that you're going to be looking at maybe smaller lots, or if somebody does want a larger parcel, they can buy 2. Or 1.5. But for the purposes of just trying to compare these and see a couple different ideas, I left the larger lots and then thinking that you can rearrange those a little bit. It is going to be simpler to go to smaller lots in a configuration like number 2. For those sitting down, this is number 2 and this is number 3. Basically, the difference is these streets are fairly straight up and down, east and west, north and south. The streets in the next option follow the hills and follow the terrain. So the lots relate to the street, and you're setting the houses in there a little better. Either one probably can work. There may be a little more manipulation for one or the other with grading, depending on how the streets are managed relative to those regions. And so in the color versions that I I should, so maybe just so that you can see what these passes are on. They look like. You can see the swales and the drainage areas with the green fingers that line through the site. You'll notice that in the lots, I've pretty much avoided those, and my thinking is they're gonna be awfully wet. I know this is a tiled area, and there's two reasons for probably staying away from them. One, maybe three at least. I'm not sure about the wetland issue in the first place. So is there a wetland kind of a style, and that we would have to avoid just from a practical standpoint? The other would just be that they're so wet that they don't provide a very good building site in the first place. And then the third is that as you look at how this site all drains toward the lake, my thought is that we would be trying to do something to control, as this developed, the change in runoff so that we were not a negative impact on the lake. We don't want to be the problem during a larger rain. We're going to have to handle our own rainfall within the site, so that what goes to the lake is what's gone to the lake previously. And there's ways to deal with evaluating that, sizing some detention on the site without necessarily losing all of the terrain that you're trying to get. Hopefully it will be a good marriage between something that's proactive and something that wasn't going to give that much value for you in the first place as far as the site goes. So with that in mind, I mean, I'm assuming that we could push our lot sizes perhaps and squeeze some of these a little bit, trying to get back to something a little little smaller. And I'm sort of throwing that out there. That's one of my questions, I guess, tonight going forward. If there is a lot size that you feel like we're aiming for, or if there's too big or too small, too big can actually be, depending on the way that you choose to zone it, could be a multifamily style housing arrangement. And so I don't want to throw away too big. That's one of the objectives that you decide you'd like to pursue. But it feels like the flexibility would be there in the smaller lots to be recombined. And I didn't go that way right away because smaller lots, for example, are tough in plan through where the street meanders. The frontages and things tend to be a little challenging. But with that in mind, then when I talked to Chris about this and we looked at it, one of the objectives was to make sure that the sewer could travel from north to south so that we could bypass the lift station up on Hardin. So if you can follow my arrows, are a little too small, the copies that you have, but basically the sewer will travel. Use this one. The sewer that starts here, the lift station that sits there, would all be run around through the site with reasonable grades. It doesn't have to be excessively deep to do that. It still serves some of the lots well. I think it's a good match. Maybe we wouldn't build quite that much sewer if we didn't have to bypass the lift station, but for the most part, we'll get some significant benefit out of the sewer bypass. But what the sewer bypass does do is it controls the way that you might phase the project. And so as soon as Chris and I did that, I changed my phases. I think I even sent you some early drawings and I had kind of outlined what I thought would happen. Once you decide that that sewer is that important, then we really almost have to build all of the sewer in order to start to build branches that come into it. So it does change the way that we network things. But then just pass this around as one thought on how the phasing might look with that in mind, and thinking that as you look at that, it would probably be pink and then blue. Blue is the primary benefactor of the bypass, and then the other two colors are just side branches on that.
And how many phases? The 3 or 4?
This is 4, and you could break it down a little bit more. The big blue phase is really just because all the sewer would be there then if you wanted to take advantage of that. You could break the blue phase down into sub phases if there was too much. And really, the sewer is only one of the costs that you'll be incurring, and the street is probably the most significant. And so there are questions then about
Can I ask you a question
type of
about
style
this?
street. Sure.
I don't mean to be ignorant, but what is all of this?
So those are the, I call them the green fingers, but there's a hill here. That's where the street runs basically around. I should have started with this, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
And there's a high area here, because the cemetery sits high up
All
on
right,
that
okay,
hill. And then everything drains down through this to get into the
I
lake.
got you. Okay, I see. I
Yeah.
got you now.
It's the primary long stretch of the green that goes to the lake. That's the one that feels to me like the one that you probably would on Alder. You have to maintain that range better.
All right.
The side branches are probably a little more flexible than what we would be able to do. And then there is a second one. There's really three. There's one on the north side, and there's one on the south side. The south side looks significant to me. I mean, maybe tell me more.
South side's wet.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
You know, you've been out.
Yeah, I planted that. So what you're seeing there that actually is Becky is waterway. It's just a waterway.
Yeah, I
It's- yeah.
figured that.
Yep.
And our goal then would be to arrange things, and that's kind of where we're coming out in that southeast corner with the sewer to try to aim. We'd like to be south of the dam. We don't want to be, we'd like to go around that to get to it. Maybe I should. There's lots of numbers that people, I mean, there's about 3,000 feet of street that what you're looking at. There's some of those kind of things, but just see if there's any questions or if we're going the right direction in the first place. If we're not heading in the right direction, I should say.
Well, yeah, we're definitely in the right direction because we didn't know where we were going. So at least when you get a couple different maps in front of us, we've got an idea, and starts with that, right?
Well, even for me,
Yeah.
it started that way. That's why I work number one right away.
Yeah.
Every plan doesn't work, but there are,
Right.
as you work at it, there's ways to refine it and kind of get the match better what you're trying to do.
So that plat number 3, there's more lots on that one, correct?
They're very, very close. They're within 2 or 3 lots the way they're
Because
drawn.
on this number 2, there's that real big space there.
Yeah,
Maybe we could put a park there.
there's lots of green space, but whether that's what you were hoping for or not, but I think that's what's going to wind up being necessary, just so that you don't, some of those, you don't want a bunch of basement problems and stuff like that.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I guess the guy should ask the question, have you folks been out there on that field at all?
I haven't been out I've been by it.
Yeah,
I didn't know I could go out on it.
not now. But,
Get a 4-wheeler and then
Yeah.
go flying in that corner or whatever.
but it is, you don't know until you get out there and you actually see the field,
Well,
you
you
know.
can
And,
kind of see that there's
oh yeah, there's a roll to
Roll
it.
to it,
You
yeah.
bet. Yes. Yeah. And then there's some very, some very nice lots that would be in there. Some very beautiful lots that would be in there. So yeah.
And that's kind of what, as an example, the difference between 3 and 2 became. So the way that the street in 3 corners a little more here rather than the square, sort of sets these lots out, with a view of the lake.
Yep,
That's what
yep.
if you're kind of after. So
I kind of
maybe
I like the one with that curvy.
with the 3, yeah.
Number 3, yeah.
I mean, I think those will be popular lots. The question is, are they efficient enough to then not screw up something else, or however we resolve that? And then the other question, which I don't have I've not done anything trying to determine costs beyond just looking at the sewer route, because that was kind of critical. But there'd be grading questions, and one thing that we would do in grading is probably build a berm across that middle green long finger. That's how we would build a temporary
Mhm.
berm for some storage of water.
Water, yep.
But I sort of had a 2-part proposal when we started this, and the idea would be, if we kind of have a good direction that we're going, then it would be worth doing the numbers, the cost part of it, to whatever degree to do that. But I didn't try to do that yet because there's a lot of different ways this can go, or number of lots, or if you wanted lots and lots and lots of little lots, then I'm on the wrong track.
No, well, no, we don't. I don't think, because I think for our purpose was to set up something where, like a higher price point type thing, you know, and so if you do that, you got to have a piece of ground, you know. So I think you're right on the right track. I do believe, you know, and
I don't mean to jump to the conclusion they should automatically get smaller, but after looking at a few of them and doing just a little bit of numbers, it feels to me like you're going to want to get more opportunity out of some of those areas. And as long as your ordinance allows it, we can aim a little smaller, and then people can do a lot and a half or something.
Sure.
If you decide to do that, it would give you more flexibility. The one thing that would probably help, generally, something this big might benefit from some idea of how much R2 you would like versus R1. Is there a place within this that you want to focus on multifamily? And then we protect the rest for single family, or is it not going to really matter that much, and we just make all the lots similar and you can decide however the zoning?
Right.
That's another question. So what I might suggest, because this is the first time, I mean, you've seen the one I sent, but the first time we really talked about it, we could do two things. I could come back with sort of a list of this kind of question that we would just let you get a chance to think about rather than trying to decide everything here in 5 minutes. And then when you're ready, we can take the cost step and see how that would work. If we look at the list of questions and we're kind of on the right track, and we've thought about it, then we'll get more out of the costs.
Even if you could send them to Darcy ahead of our meeting, so we
Yes,
can.
yeah, I would do it between now and I'm gone your next meeting, so you'd have a little time to do something.
All right.
Think about it.
sounds good.
3, would that follow the contour of the land a little more?
It does. I kind of wrap around the
Yep.
hill a little bit.
I like that.
I can get away with 2, I think, better than I couldn't get away with 1. But
Glad you did one then.
yeah, it makes better lots out of those end ones on the east side, but it probably is a little trickier on that east side to make a street that flows well. And then the one thing I guess we haven't, one of the questions will be, when you get to that southwest corner, you own that street right away to get over to Aspen. That'll serve both the secondary access, which I think is a good idea.
Now, who owns that property there that road would be on? Somebody,
We own it.
Huh?
We own it.
Part of the
That goes to Aspen?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
yeah, which is nice because for the
Yeah, I was
road
gonna say
and your
that.
water main, I think it's those two would benefit from tying those things together.
Oh, so the red,
It's tough to build those pieces because you don't get any housing on it. So they're not a favorite thing to have to do, but it's nice you have the opportunity to do them.
cool.
Any more questions, you guys?
I like it.
I usually come right after I go out the door, so you're. If you'd
Then you
like.
gotta stay for the whole meeting, huh?
I'll send you a copy of this.
Okay.
I just have the one.
Yep.
And if you want anything larger, we can do that. Otherwise, I'll just take these. So that you
Sure,
have a bunch
yeah.
of-
Sure.
Thank you.
Is there a way that sometime you could send how many square feet each lot is,
We can.
or approximate?
And these are, yeah, I can do something.
I mean, like a range. It
Yeah,
doesn't
I
have
can
to be
do a range
exact.
for a
Yeah.
group,
Yep.
Because they're all very conceptual at this.
Sure. Yep.
They take a big step, which is kind of why you want to iron out your preferences
Yeah.
before
Yep.
you go to all that.
Makes
Yep.
sense.
Okay, if you think of something else, let me know.
All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go on then to item 8. Connie.
And, where I live, it's, 0.1 miles from the city limits. It's right between, the electric motor shop and Darby Suco. And so I went and had permission, them sign, if it was okay to do that. And behind me is a field. I'm out, there's nobody around me that,
So
nobody
yeah,
really-
Connie's on when you're heading south out of town on 18 and 52, she's the last house on the
Across
left.
from the vet, right?
Yes, and here's the beacon, plot. I mean, you can see here where it's a field. This is our house here. So there's fields here, and Suco's, there's nothing there anymore. And then, Ted's place is right here. So there's really nothing, around us. And actually, I'm here for my kids. They live with me, and they're the ones that should be here tonight, but they're out of town, so I had to do this for them. And I did get a picture of the distance from Ted's electric shop, if you're interested in that, and from Suco's. So I don't.
It's pretty wide open spaces out there.
Yes, it is. Yes. So, and then this.
So you are within the city limits.
0.1 miles from the city limits, yes.
So out of or into?
In,
Okay.
yeah.
So you get garbage pickup there?
Yes, I do get garbage pickup, and that was another issue that I had too. Being in the city limits, I thought that, if you get garbage pickup, that you would get, the large item pickup, and I was told no, because I wasn't in the city limits. So I was like, okay. Then I wanted to do something for Ragbri out at the acreage where we live, and they said, no, you can't do that, you're not in the city limits. We want to give the people in city limits first chance to do things. So I was like confused. So, that's
Do you
all.
have is your chickens, is any of them a rooster?
No,
No
they're
rooster.
all hens.
And you have a cage, right? for them?
Yes, I'm passing around the picture of the cage, and the dimensions should be on that. The building size is 10 by 5, and the run size is 10 by 12.
About the size of Pat's mini tiny home.
So if we let you do this, you're gonna have this over for chicken dinner.
Certainly.
How long have you had the chickens for?
Pardon me?
How long have you had the chickens for?
Since, let's see, I think my daughter got them in February as little chicks. And then has raised them.
So are these layers or?
Yes.
They are.
Yes.
It's a lot of property.
So when you got them, you wanted the impression that you were not in city limits because of the red brand?
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, I didn't look at the beacon. I did, that's my own fault. I did not look at, my husband did when we moved here 5 years ago. I guess my husband took care of all of those things, and he's passed. And I didn't look at the plans or to know whether we were in city limits or not even thinking about it, because there's nobody around us, I guess, and that's why I never thought twice about it. But that's my own fault.
I know it's like a great place for chickens.
So that would be your decision, or, if you have to come up with it is,
I think it's okay.
if you allow her to have them or not, because it's,
Well, I think she should be allowed. She's barely in the city limits. There's a lot of property. No rooster. I wonder if there's animals over at the vet shop.
do this during the day, just like take it home.
So did, Becky, you do, is that you make that a
I move that we
motion?
allow Connie Farrington at 12667 Highway 18 to keep her chickens. As long as there's no rooster.
All right, is there a second?
And this is based on the amount of property that's there and the neighbors saying it's okay with them.
Second it.
Ross made a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Hang on to your chickens.
Thank you, Don.
All right, item 9, Carol. Something to do about a water bill. Okay,
Carol Livingood, and I live at 128 West Military Road since 2014. I live alone and don't think I've ever paid more than the minimum rate until this last time. Before the city clerk phoned me around the first part of May, I noticed that the toilet and the basement was running, and I fixed it so it wouldn't run until the plumber would come. B&K was able to come and fix it. He replaced all the parts in the tank of the stool and put a shut-off valve on. And he put a shut-off valve on the bathroom sink upstairs. The house was built in 1949, and evidently that was not the custom to put a turn off on the plumbing at that time. My bill is $974.33. And my usual bill has always been $77.99, and I think it's always been what the minimum bill was, because I don't think, I live alone and I don't really use that much water.
How much was the bill? The big one?
$974.33. And I know that I should pay something for my neglect. I don't use that school very much, and I'm just hope that you can adjust the bill some for me. My friend, the previous owner of a house was in the nursing home for 5 years, and she paid the minimum 5 years and never used anything. I got a copy of the bill from the plumber that he fixed everything.
When did you find out that the toilet was leaking? When you
It
got
was
it?
running, yeah.
When the city called you, is that when you?
Well, I noticed it before they called me, and I said, that I put a brush up underneath there so it quit running.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
evidently the part
To
was
stop
not
it,
working.
yeah.
So, and she told me how much it was. Well, I called the plumber, and of course, I had temporarily fixed it so it wouldn't run. And so then he came and replaced all the inside of the tank and put a shut-off valve on it. Because evidently, when they built the houses back then, they didn't put shut-off valves on stuff, so.
well, the tough spot you're in though, Carolyn, is that, the water ran and it went through the sewer system.
Yeah.
Then that's the tough part on this deal, That's how that's how it gets billed, is if it runs through the sewer system.
There were a lot of months that nobody used the water, and there's a basic rate for anybody, whether they use the water at all, right?
Right.
You get charged for sewer and water, whether you use it or not.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. You're right. So you folks got any questions for Carolyn?
Did the city offer to get into like a payment agreement with you?
Pardon?
Did the city offer to get into like a payment agreement with you?
Not very close to that.
Sorry. Did the city offer to get into a payment agreement with you?
She measured out some payments available, yeah. But I just was wondering if that couldn't be reduced some.
What was the payment plan that,
Pardon?
what was the payment plan that the city offered
$97 or something a month.
to pay that over?
That's what she fixed out in the letter. Okay. This is what she fixed out.
Minimum is what?
77.99 is a minimum.
So there was that 1.25 times. So your maximum bills are $75. Right? Your maximum, your bills are always $75, right?
No, this is what my bills are usually the same, $77.99.
$77, okay, so it's
And
$78 basically.
And I don't know if all those months, the years that I've been there, if I've ever used the minimum.
Right.
Is there a different payment plan that you propose that you want us to consider? Is there a different payment plan that sounds better to you that you propose that we consider? Or you're just
Well, I
looking
was-
to
I
reduce?
was wondering if you could at least reduce it some.
How much was that bill to the ENK? 200 and something.
This is Jeff.
I hate that this is all. What about if we pay her, give her credit for the amount of money she spent on the plumbing guy? That would-
So you have a policy
I
that's
was
been
looking at
drafted by
that,
council
yes.
that you need to follow. Otherwise, you're gonna have a lot of people in here next month to see you.
Right,
Because
yeah.
this isn't the only high
Okay,
bill
it
we've
said
dealt with
the
this
sewer
month.
bill is not 1.25.
Right, but this is if it did not go down the city sewer system.
Oh,
Yeah, running toilets, it would have gone down the sewer. This is like if somebody left a hose on, or say they had a dirt
yeah, no matter
floor
what
we've
it was,
addressed.
it went through
Yeah,
the system.
Just
Yeah.
went out on the ground.
What amount of it was for?
Does she have a bill with her? I didn't print it, Ross, because it didn't meet the guidelines
Sure.
for giving.
So, we do have, we've got a guidelines to go by. You guys got those in front of you.
That's for water that did not go in the sewer. Mhm.
I
Yeah, except for
didn't
running
hear
toilet.
that. What was that?
These guidelines on the water that goes
Into the sewer.
So has it ever been, we ever never made an adjustment on things like this?
can make a motion to honor the payment agreement.
Yeah, I mean, we do, there is a payment agreement. It's just, it's a rock and a hard place, so.
How many of these do you think we have in a year, Darcy?
Oh, gosh. I want to say, it's hard for me to tell you how many a year,
Yeah.
but just this last billing, we probably had about 4.
Incidents like this.
Not until we do reads. And we usually reads about the 15th of the month.
So just have to see ahead of time.
Did I see something where we're gonna have to update our reading system as well? That it's getting, or was that something different? That our reading system was getting outdated, or no?
For the
We
wells.
gotta go to, that was just well?
Yeah,
for the
no,
wells
that's
as
for the
well.
radio
Yeah,
reads. No,
okay.
that's our wells.
Okay. Because right now, the only way we collect it's driving around, is that correct?
Yeah, usually reads on the 15th of the month.
Is there stations that can be put throughout town that reads it more frequently or not?
For a cost, yeah.
Sure.
This is happening.
Sure. Not for her, but for people, yeah.
Well, that's the tough thing, this has never been, with a policy like that, believe me, there would be lots of folks coming in. And
And part of it too is that she pays for the minimum whether she uses it or not.
Yeah.
And that's kind of too bad and for her.
It's the same every time, has been the same every time, so I don't know what your minimum is. Is that the minimum?
pretty close,
What
right?
is the minimum?
Yeah.
$77?
Yeah.
99 cents, yeah.
So, and even if I don't use that much.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that you just not be enough to do anything or what?
Well, it's up to these folks. I mean, it's a very unfortunate situation,
I'd be the sewer and if you need the water part.
So how is that broken down?
Well, I'd be paying $641. The water is $239. Well, that's what there's the other taxes and stuff on that too.
I think we're kind of stuck, unfortunately, with what we got unless we, at some point, rewrite what our policy is. I don't like that, but
I don't think anybody does, but that's this is.
But that's a good point though, Carol. 641 is what it costs. What it goes to the sewer.
What about the wells that pumped water?
I mean, I don't know.
I'm just saying, water ran, so
Right.
it wasn't just the sewer.
I know, I mean, you
Yeah.
can break it down until that 15 is pieces.
I'm gonna make a motion to follow our policy until something changes, or if it does change ever.
So will you let her sign that payment agreement then?
Yeah, payment agreement is fine.
All right, so there's been a motion to follow policy and to allow the payment agreement. Is there a second?
Marissa.
Oh, I'm sorry. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, Carolyn. All right, item 10, concrete pad, street department.
So we did put this in the budget. However, we're getting kind of late in the fiscal year. We did go out for more bids, but we only received one. It was the one from Bacon Concrete in the amount of $12,960.
And this was in the budget, you said?
It was. I think the budget number was 12,000, so it's a little bit more than what we had anticipated. And I guess my question was whether or not we would get it done yet by June 30th, because we're at the end of the fiscal.
All right.
So
And where was this at?
where is this at?
This pad?
This pad is extending or replacing up at the street garage, the apron, to a couple of the bays up there.
At the garage?
City department.
City garage.
Oh.
They don't have any pictures, do they?
No, I didn't get any pictures.
Who else did we present it to for
We
bids?
requested Meyer Concrete, and then there was a newer company that we had requested. Can't think of the name. There used to be on it over on.
Oh, sure,
Remember that.
yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't get it. They said they were interested, but we didn't get anything back from them either. So, do you know the name of their company? We were gonna give them.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I can't.
Okay.
You know, I'm terrible when you get name, I freeze up. I just freeze up when it comes to names.
Is that the Camacho or whatever? Over in Green or no? It's a different spot.
What was that one? Is it different? Do you know? Okay.
But we didn't get a
No.
response, so, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this has to be done by the end of this month.
Yeah.
Is that gonna be possible?
I asked and they said it was, but I don't know. Gonna be tight. I think you've looked at this apron before. Some of you might remember. No, maybe Ross remembers.
Yeah.
Back when Mark was here. No.
I know we've added some, but
Yeah.
So what do we need to do with this one?
Well, I need to know whether they want to approve the bid or not. I'm asking on behalf
We've got
of
it
the street
12,000, we had
12,000
12,000 in there.
in the
Okay.
budget. This is 12,000.
if we don't do it, will it roll over to next year's budget if we want
We'd
to?
have to amend it because I
Okay.
didn't put it in for the next
Sure.
year. I guess we're amending anyway for hotel motel.
I just wonder did it say it had to be done in that time period or not?
Yeah, we
When it
said
went
it
out?
need to be done yet this fiscal
Wonder if we
year.
get more bids if we didn't have to have it done in such a tight time period.
Well, we're gonna roll over for another year then, right?
Yeah, but it could be done July, August, whatever, just be between July 1st and June 30th of next
Right.
year.
Yep. Well, I suppose if those guys were, the other
Right, I
two were
mean, if
too
they're
busy.
too busy,
then
yeah, right,
then
yeah, I mean, a
Maybe.
month is a pretty short time
Yeah.
period
Yeah.
to be able to
Less
squeeze
than.
somebody in. I would be in favor of doing that, I guess, if we can just roll it to next year's and see if we can get not that it'll be any better bid, it might still be the low bid, but at least
So you
get more
wanna-
than one.
So you want a table or what do we, should Jerry make a motion?
Either way is gonna have the same effect, because we're gonna be out of the,
You're gonna be out of this
This
fiscal
year.
year, yeah. Yeah. But that's the way you're leaning.
I think so, just like I said, it still might be the low bid, but at least we know we had competitive bids if we,
So your motion would be to table?
yeah.
All right, we got a motion to table this item. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Okay, we got a table. All right, let's go then to item 11, ordinance number 708-23, an ordinance amending chapter 106, collection of solid waste of Postville, Iowa Code of Ordinances.
So this is your garbage ordinance. You discussed this last
Mhm.
month and these are your rates.
Is there any more discussion on the rates that can be had anyway? Because we entered into the contract, right?
Yeah, we already are entered, yeah.
Yep.
This is what we sent out to the public when we sent out the notices, so,
Yeah, so this is the way the ordinance will read then, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask you something about this? Are the new people doing it now?
No, well, they're learning.
Okay,
So they've been helping Town and Country
Right,
to
right,
learn
that's
the
what I thought.
route and try and work out the kinks prior to them completely taking over.
because someone had called me and said that they saw so many garbage totes in the streets. And I don't know if that had to do with the garbage pickup or there was too much wind in the day, or I don't know, but I guess we'll really have to just kind of wait how that shakes out when they start doing it on their own.
Yeah,
I have a feeling it'll probably work better when it's just them.
yeah, and we have started a list of calls and complaints we're getting so that we can send them over to this
Oh,
new
yeah.
company to make sure that they're addressed.
Okay, cool. That makes sense.
And the bulky items, I believe, unless they've changed, you can still haul to the landfill yourself,
Yes.
correct? If
Mhm.
you want.
Yeah, we would encourage people to do that probably. So just remember, you have to have tags now prior.
Or you can contact somebody to
Sure.
do it for you,
Yeah.
whatever. But
Mhm.
refresh my memory, Darcy, on what our policy, because when we had twice a year pickup,
Yeah.
did we allow things to accumulate longer with having that policy or not?
You mean as far as people?
Bulky
throwing junk?
items, yeah.
Well, people usually when it got closer to the time, people were throwing out. We ran into an issue with Town and Country where we were having huge amounts of piles.
Yep.
And they got pretty worked up about that it was taking advantage
yeah.
of them.
Yep.
So then they came to the realization that they wouldn't pick up any more than like a dumpster full at
Sure.
a place. I mean, I think we ran the issue with like the rental properties where landlords were just waiting
Yeah.
and then throwing the whole
Then
house
throw
out.
it out, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering if we could tighten with it changing, if it was more lenient, if we could tighten that up of keeping properties cleaned up more frequently, since there is an option of getting rid of it
Sure.
instead of
Yeah.
Yeah,
large item
probably,
only.
yes.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, before they had the excuse, well, large items only
Right.
twice a year.
That's right. Let's see.
Maybe if you just on the next council meeting, let us know what that ordinance is as far as what we currently have, or if we just weren't enforcing it since we had just the twice a year pickup.
You mean chapter 55?
Yeah,
nuisance? Okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
I'd make a motion to approve ordinance 708-23.
All right. Second? Okay, thank you.
This is roll call.
The roll call, yep.
Engelhardt,
Yes.
Malcolm,
Yes.
Mar.
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
so if you don't want a second or third reading, I need a motion to that effect. If you do, then it goes to a second reading.
And move we
Wave.
Waive.
waive the second, third reading.
All right, is there a second to that?
Second.
Engelhardt,
Yes.
Malcolm,
Yes.
Mar.
Yes.
And one other question, this starts July 1st for the new
Correct.
haulers, right?
Mhm, yeah,
So if people want to change container
Garbage.
size, get it done before July 1st?
yeah. And we've been getting quite a few of those calls,
Okay.
so.
And it's just the two sizes, or they do
Yeah.
a smaller one
No,
but same
just
price,
those
just
two.
those two?
Yeah.
Because I think we had some 32s around, didn't we, originally?
There
From
is.
some older
35s,
people.
And they
Yeah.
were like the very first Town and Country, like when they very first.
Yeah.
And then the second contract year, they took those away. But
Okay,
people were being charged the same rate
Right.
as a 65.
Right.
Big one.
So there are a few of those 35 still grandfathered out there. So if
Okay.
people have those, we encourage, and you want bigger, we
But
do
if you
have
want
the
to keep
little
that, they'll let
ladies
you.
that
Right.
want
That's
the
what I was getting
35,
at is
and we let them have them.
Right.
We charge 25 no matter what.
Yes.
right. But as far as convenience of getting them
Yeah.
out, those 64s
Yeah.
get pretty big for
You know,
some people.
Used to
Yeah.
be some people the elderly would just put out a garbage bag. Well, with that arm, that can't be
Right.
anymore. They have to have a tote. So
All right. Anything else on that? If not, let's go on to item 12, then water rates.
So it's that time of year again where you need to be reviewing your water rates, and let me know if you want to make any changes for an ordinance draft. I did lay out for you a revenue and expense of your water fund so that you can kind of see where you're at. It's what I highlighted. That's revenue and expense to date. I laid it out for you.
That's this one, Becky.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yep. So that's what that report is. It kind of tells you where you're at expense wise and revenue coming in and where you're at bottom line. I think last year you did what, a 1%?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
I think 1%, if you keep doing that, you gotta kind of do something every year or it's gonna get behind and you have a big one.
Are you in agreement? You want me to have the city attorney draft the ordinance at 1%?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, can I get a motion?
Sure. Motion then for such
So
a
moved.
second?
Okay.
Any further discussion?
I'll have that for next month then.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. All right. Okay, then item 13, ordinance number 710-23, and an ordinance amending chapter 3, municipal infractions of Postville, Iowa Code of Ordinances.
Do you want to talk about this or want me to? Okay. So we had asked the city attorney to kind of give us a guideline to go by for enforcing charges for violation of municipal infractions. So he put together this, which is an example from other cities of what we would charge if we were going to fine somebody for any of these instances, what the municipal infraction amount would be.
Mhm.
So this is kind of a helpful guideline for us to put in the ordinance.
So if we see somebody that has done this, let's say fireworks or whatever, we can call the police department or we call you?
No, you would call the police.
I can tell you one thing right now, there's outdoor use of indoor furnishings.
Yeah, we're well aware.
Okay, now, did that dirt ever get cleaned up over there?
Yes,
Okay.
but we're still working on the couch.
Yeah.
We're near this fine part right now,
Oh,
so yeah.
Question on that, code section 55-06.
55.06,
Yeah,
yeah, animal at large.
that says animals on leash.
Yeah, animals that are on leash.
So you can't have dogs in the park on a leash?
Well, it says they can't be, they have to be on the leash.
Yeah, they can't be running at large.
They're at large, they're not large
It's
animals.
255.06.
Yeah, there is.
So what they're saying is if, like what Becky said, park, if the animal's not on the leash in the park, that's what that 5506 animals on leash in park. That's
So-
what that ordinance reads, if it's not on a leash. They just let it
They're
run.
violating if they don't have the animal on the leash.
Right, they're violating an animal running at large. It's chapter
Right.
5506 in the code section of your city
So
ordinance.
shouldn't it say animals not on leash?
But
then?
why would you say
Yeah, there's
animals
2 of
on
them.
leash?
Yeah,
That
see,
you
there's
can't
another
find
one,
them if
too.
they got them
So
leashed.
we got a typo there.
Yeah, got a typo.
Okay,
It should be not on
Not on
leash.
leash.
Yeah.
I don't see that.
Down about 3/4 of the way,
I guess
Becky,
there's two.
right above that
so we need to
47.
make that
It's kind of a big
change.
one,
I
47.
got it, yeah, okay.
And I suppose this one should probably be changed. At large in town.
Show me.
Right here.
Oh, 47.
Animals on, yeah,
Okay,
it's
I was,
5506, and there's another 5506 up
Yeah,
here too.
okay, I
So there's
see.
2 of them,
Okay, got it.
and there's 2 105s I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so animal not on leash.
Right.
So we need to make a change on that.
What about kids? Today, I saw 3 little kids. They were somewhere just like on a little tiny bicycle, and they were in the street, and they went right in front of a minivan, but the minivan happened to turn into the parking lot.
So we do have a code for playing in the street, which I would say that probably.
But I was
falls under.
thinking I might give Matt the address, and he can maybe talk to the parents, because when the parent came out, they were on the sidewalk. But they were little kids, and they were going in their bicycles right out, not looking, they were just helter-skelter all over the street. And I'm afraid one of them's gonna get killed, or at least hit.
Mhm.
I'll give you that address later, or call you tomorrow.
That one.
Yeah. Mhm.
136.
136, yeah.
You have a list of what the various activities are that I can do. I
Could
mean,
be
you do.
part of what
That
she
would be
just
part of
talked
what she was
about.
just talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
And some of that, I mean, like and I get it, outdoor use of indoor furnishings, but there's certain to be more and more outdoor furnishings that they're making that do look like indoor furnishings, but are made for outdoors,
Mhm.
whether we like it or not, but it's getting that way.
Yeah, but this is.
No, I'm not saying that
I
there's,
know, I
but,
know, but there are some outdoor furniture that is more like a stuffed chair, but
right.
it's outdoor, actually
Yep.
outdoor furniture.
Right. Would there be any reason not to just put them all at the $50 since that's what the majority of them are? Or do you see a reason to have some of those higher?
I do.
Like, for instance, 4707 litter and parks, from what the city guys got to pick up and other people got to pick up in there, yeah, it's an extra.
Well, and number
And that, and a lot of that
4111
is going
got to
off
be on.
state code too,
Mhm.
by the way. That's not, it's going off, like 4707 is off state code and state park code. All parks. County does it too.
4111 should be 500.
Certain times there's not much choices, Becky.
Huh?
Certain times there's not
I
much
know,
choices
but
of how fast you
could
can get
by
somewhere.
than I could.
So like 7603 seats
that
and
mean?
passengers, what does that mean?
That, if you look at chapter 76, it refers to the bicycle. So you've got maybe kids on handlebars and one in the seat. It could be something like that. So you have to know the 76 code section. of
Okay.
what
Oh, then
it's
writing
referring.
abreast, that'd be 2 bicycles, right?
Alrighty.
Riding on sidewalk, that's just downtown areas, is that correct?
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah. Business district.
So we're supposed to call the police if we see somebody doing that, or they just have to catch them?
We do get calls of people that about got hit on walking in the business district or coming out of a business.
Yeah, I saw somebody coming out of Fidelity Bank and just
Yeah.
missed,
Mhm.
like. Do we need to move on this?
Yeah.
Yep, so I will make that one change, so it'll say not on leash.
Okay, so we need a motion to accept. Is there a motion?
Laura, are you gonna move? Go ahead.
Make a motion on that, yeah, to accept. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
All right, thanks. Second,
I'll second.
any further discussion? All right, you gotta go, Darcy, yeah.
Engelhardt,
Yes,
Malcolm,
Yes.
Mar. Now, if you want to waive the second and third and final adopt, I need to know, otherwise you'll have a second reading at your next meeting.
I'll move we waive second reading of
Second and third?
second and third, 710-24.
Second? Whenever you're ready, Darcy.
Engelhardt,
Yes,
Malcolm,
Oh.
Mar. Oh. Malcolm's no.
did you say no?
Mar. Well, okay, so you will have a second reading because you have to have a supermajority, so
Okay.
it'll be on your next agenda.
All right. Okay, then we can go on to item 14. Ordinance number 709-23, an ordinance repealing and replacing chapter 35, Fire Department of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Postville, Iowa.
Question.
Yep.
Is Larry the member from the city council? Is he on that?
It's on your consent
Consent
agenda that
agenda.
you need to appoint him tonight.
Oh, okay, I missed that. Okay,
But yeah, he's there.
okay.
Any further questions on that? So we're set up, we're ready to go. 1st of July.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 709-23.
Already, second? Whenever you're ready, Darcy.
Engelhardt,
Yes,
Malcolm,
Yes.
Mar. Okay, now, second, third, next, do you want another reading, or if you don't want it, you have to make a motion not to, second, third, final adopt.
do we have to have everybody? You said a supermajority. to
You
do
all have to say yes for it to pass. You
And I
have a
just did
majority.
last one since it was dollars and cents. So if people
it?
had
Okay,
any opinions,
okay. But you're not gonna,
I won't bamboo you here. You're all right.
I moved to approve 709
Well, wait,
No,
wait.
waive the second and
Second.
third reading of
Final.
709-23.
All right, gotcha, you
I haven't
bet.
even.
Second.
Okay, Engelhardt.
Yes,
Malcolm.
Yes.
Mar. All right.
Done with that one. Okay, item 15, and resolution number 1395-23, resolutions of support for Elmwood County Foundation grant application, mini grant fiscal sponsor for the farmers market.
So this is a grant that we are assisting the farmers market for a mini grant that's due at the end of the month here for $500 to assist in marketing and translation of marketing material. And they will need a fiscal sponsor, so they've asked if the city would so do that. Need a motion to approve the resolution if you're okay with that.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
second.
Whenever you are.
Engelhardt,
Yes,
Malcolm,
Yes.
Mar. Yes.
All right. Item 16, then, resolution number 1396-23, a resolution of support for Upper Mississippi Gaming Corporation grant application. This is for the Postville Pool Park and Rec Board for the pool heater project.
So this grant also requires a fiscal sponsor, which would be the city for that board. And we need council documentation to be their sponsor. And that application is due August, the end of August, and I'm almost done with it. So I just need.
so what do we have to do in order to do this?
So what you are is we handle their money. So you're their
Oh.
fiscal sponsor. So that if they were awarded the grant, the check would come into the city and we would administer it. Same with the farmer's market. The money would come into the city, yeah.
Okay. I'll move for the resolution 1396-23 to be approved.
All right. Second.
Second.
Engelhardt,
Yes.
Malcolm,
Yes.
Mar.
Yes.
All right. Yes, thank you. Item 17 then is 141 Front Street, 211 South Maple property complaint. So we got a couple of them.
No, oh,
I went by these properties. They're terrible. Horrible. I think, didn't the city clean up the one on?
we did, yes, we
I
did.
thought I saw Blake getting mowing, but he took those trees down. Is that a vacant property?
No one's been there, we don't think, but somebody is still renting the property.
Somebody's paying the rent on it
Yeah.
or something.
I guess, maybe we wanted some direction on how you want to go about,
That was,
right, is what you want. this
that's
on
what I,
here.
yes.
You want more input with some of these dilapidated properties.
Is there some more that we're needing to either have them fix or take over like we'd done before?
Well, the issue with these two is it probably wouldn't
Okay.
qualify as a 657A because the utilities are paid.
Okay.
Taxes are paid. It's just nobody's taking care of the property physically.
If the
So-
one is falling apart though, is that
That would be more of
become-
a dangerous
Right,
building, yeah.
right.
So I guess if that's the route you wanted me to go, I can do that. I just.
I mean, I guess if that's truly how it's getting, then is that what it'd be considered basically? I
Yes,
mean,
mhm.
and that's the Front Street one. Is that one or is that the other one?
It's both.
Both are? Okay.
Now, I see that the lawn is mowed. Did the city mow that?
Which one?
On Front Street.
No, the neighbor mows it. Have you
Neighbor
seen
does.
his complaint?
Yeah, I saw that. They're
He's
the
been
one, I thought maybe
maintaining
he
it.
did just to make it so it's less.
I know, but I did, if you do look at the photos, there's a lot of poison ivy that's grown up around that home.
Yeah, and there's just trash.
Have we tried to get a hold of the owners?
We tried to get a hold by sending a letter to the one on Maple, which we're still waiting for a response, and we have left messages. I have not reached out to the other one yet, but I will do that this week by phone. I'll try and contact him.
Yeah, because there is that phone number.
You might have to you guys.
Right. Okay.
So what do we need?
So I'll try and make contact again with both owners, and
Okay.
then if I cannot get any response from them, you want me to move forward with dangerous building? Is that what we're
Yes.
saying?
I would
Can somebody make a motion to that effect then?
So move.
Okay,
Second?
How long will we give them to respond?
how much time would you like me to give them?
To respond,
10 days.
probably 30 days.
30
days, okay.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously we've got pictures we can forward to their email if they're
Yeah,
not
which
local people, you know,
We did
to
do
see.
to the one, but the
Okay.
other one I do need to.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I have a motion,
Yeah, but been a motion and second, right?
no second.
No. Oh,
Second,
Any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Carried. Okay, item 18 then, resolution number 1398-23, a resolution adopting city fees.
so I know you looked at these last month,
Yeah.
and I know, Ross, you said the loader, 1% of what it costs, that would come to like 1,000 something, and so we kind of
Yeah,
talked about
yep,
that.
Yep. Make it reasonable,
So I
but
did
yeah.
make some changes. I want you just to look again if you're okay with what we are recommending to charge for some of our fees, then we can go ahead and pass the resolution.
Because that loader charge and supply a man running it too correctly if they
Correct,
needed
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry, Ross, what did you just say? What was your question about?
Includes the man.
Because obviously you wouldn't let somebody just come and
No,
get
no,
the
it'd
unloader
be
and
at the
take it
city,
and go,
no.
you know,
No.
at the rental world, especially that.
I move that we adopt resolution 1398-23.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Jay Darcy.
Engelhardt,
Yes.
Malcolm,
Yes.
Mar.
Done with that one?
Yep.
All right. 19. Resolution number 1397-23, a resolution directing Alliant make changes to existing street light, Southwest Oak, Cheryl intersection, street light upgrades.
So we've had some concerns about some darkness in that area, and I had met with Alliance. I do have a map here if I think you guys maybe haven't seen it. We did kind of, we thought maybe we'd start by looking at what the wattages are in the bulbs in that area to see if maybe to start with, we would change out some bulbs to help alleviate some of those concerns. And then if that's still an issue, then maybe we would look at any type of pole added, but then we get into easements and that's kind of a longer
Looks like
process.
a bit more LED on the new one, so.
Yeah,
it
so
might make a difference.
we'll have a cost to, our bill once we change out some of these bulbs, so.
Pretty much all of them are probably LED bulbs currently,
Yeah.
right? Just a matter of the wattage.
Right.
When would they do this change?
We'd probably take them about a month or so once we get on their schedule.
And with that park right there, there's not any lighting on the other side, so.
So if you're okay with that, I need a motion for the resolution we've sent to get this work order started. Okay,
Okay, second.
adopt the resolution.
Second. Is that the only one that we've really had an issue with?
Yep, that's the
Okay.
only one we've had, anyone bring us that there's concerning. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Malcolm,
Yes.
Mar. Yes. Okay.
Item 20, that's a fiber SCADA system.
Mayor, do you want to talk about that or do you want me to?
This is what we were talking about, the wells, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
the radios.
And the radios, you know how radios are, they just keep getting outdated and we keep updating and it's money. So we went ahead and contacted Northeast Iowa Telephone, and they're going to run fiber out, and which was so you got the cost and the cost is here, right?
Mhm.
And so instead of dealing with radios and all for the next 100 years, we decided that we had to do this, right? Because they're in town and it had to been done now. So this is something that we went ahead and give the okay for.
To run the fiber.
Yeah.
So the crews were here, we had till last week to let them know to run the fiber. So the mayor signed off on it.
Yep.
But you'll need to negotiate, the 12-month contract, the council will need to review that once we have it. So what's happening is our radios don't always talk to each other on our wells, okay? And we've had some issues that we've had Decorah Electric trying to resolve. And this is one of the things that we would need to do to alleviate the issue of the radios not talking to those wells, to the SCADA system. We looked at maybe doing Wi-Fi, but the cost of that would be more than what it would cost us to just put the fiber underground and pay a monthly fee.
So what is the actual monthly fee?
Yep, so it'll be $100 a month for a 12-month contract, and that's what you'll be looking at once I have that contract. That's what they're proposing. Just to run the fiber is $25 per mile, and they estimated four different wells, right? So, and then so a total setup for would be $340. So, and then we don't have the pricing yet for the switches that we need to do, and we will have some IT work that Northeast Iowa Telephone will need to do. So that'll all be coming before you, but I just wanted to let you know about this because the mayor did sign off last week for the fiber to be ran, so just for your
That's
information.
pretty necessary.
And the contract will be coming, so.
Any discussion on that? Okay, let's go to item 21, the consent agenda. Anything in there that you folks want to talk about?
Well, I know that there was, talking about water for the Big Four Fair.
Yep.
They asked that we go charging, is that it?
Yeah,
And was that agreed upon by, okay.
we usually just waive the water, like we'll read, but they still have to pay everything else, just the
Okay.
water.
And then the curb cut, I looked at that today and it looks necessary. I move that we approve the consent.
Yes,
I got two things.
Oh, sorry.
Um,
You gotta speak up real quick.
Right,
I'm getting
right.
tired.
she wants to go home.
I had one was a couple complaints, and I've noticed it too. Intersection at North Reynolds on 18 West. Oh, there's been a vehicle. It's actually parked on.
Where the couches?
Yeah, that property.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Normally there's a vehicle parked there, and it makes it a hazard for the ones that want to go south or turn because they cannot see the traffic coming from the east going west.
I've noticed that too.
I don't know what can be done, but I would say something should maybe be changed on that.
The folks have been talked to.
Nope, not yet.
So being it's a city boulevard or DOT, probably city has control, we could eliminate the parking on the state
Or
highway.
only parallel parts.
Yeah, would that work?
I don't think it's long enough for parallel
Or
parking.
just for one car.
Yeah, because they're going in
Yeah,
east and west. If they go in north
Yeah.
and south, then they'll be sticking out.
Yeah. I meant parallel to the.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's been a hazard. I've noticed it a couple times, and I got an easement out there.
Yeah, well, I've done the same thing.
Today, someone about hit a motorcycle. They pretty much locked it up. It could have been bad, but it's something the council.
So is there some way that we can just tell them they can't park there anymore? Is that?
Well, we would put it on the next agenda and then you could make it no parking. And then we put signs and it'd be no
I
parking.
think we should do that.
So we'll add that to the next month's agenda.
I think it's important to do it.
All right.
And then the other thing is, I am asking or requesting, it doesn't matter, but last month, we upped the pay for the part-time. Over the weekend, this individual went above and beyond his call duty to help one of the other officer on a pretty good case that you'll probably read about it here in the near future, but it's going to probably put two people away for a while. And the work that he did, I think he deserves that pay for using his expertise on what he did.
So we already
approached it.
did increase his pay.
We did, but
We
it was
did.
for effective July 1st. So
Oh,
he's
so we wanna
asking
just
for
do
it now.
Yeah,
Retroactive
just start it now.
I don't see a problem with that.
I would just need
Motion.
somebody to make a motion to the effect of that so I can be in the minutes for the auditing purposes.
So Becky,
I'll move that, we give him that increase immediately.
It was $24 an hour.
Great.
What's his PD number?
Love it.
PD 11.
a second. Laura, a second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say no. Carry.
Have we been short officers lately?
for as,
Ever.
you know, full-time or part-time?
Well, I've just seen other towns in town.
I'm down to one.
Monona was in once, and somebody else was in town one night. I mean, one was a dent on a vehicle over at Quick Star. I seen Monona's police department there. Do we not have people on duty all the time?
Well, we got people on. It's just the stuff that's going on is that we're getting backup from Clayton County.
Well, like when
That's
you
all I
had that
checked.
drug thing up on Lowell or wherever that, there was a lot of officers there, but it was pretty intense.
Yeah, that.
Runaway child and,
Oh, yeah. I know what you're, yep. That is about done and over.
I know that there was a lot of extra
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
from different-
Yep.
because of the severity of the situation, I suspect.
A lot of bad things happen
Yeah.
that we don't know about when we're sleeping. Yeah. So anything, did you notice that, Becky, that it is Larry Moore and Bill Harris on the Fire
Yeah, oh,
Commission?
I see that there, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I
And we
remember
would-
seeing
are
that.
gonna be ready this month to sign equipment over and stuff. I'll be checking with the city attorney tomorrow, but just so you know, we will be hopefully getting all that signed over.
Any other questions on the consent agenda? Are you done?
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry. I moved.
Yeah.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say no. All right. Item 22, then resolution for money to pay the claims.
So moved.
Second.
Darcy?
Engelhardt,
Yes.
Malcolm,
Yes.
Mar.
All right. Gets us to item 23, then public comment. Any more, folks?
I'm gonna say
That would be you.
Yeah. That was really a tough decision, you guys, with Carol Livingood and her water bill. But I commend you for sticking to the policy because I had to come to bat for someone. And Darcy explained it to me just exactly the way it had been explained to Carol. And it's tough. I really feel for her because that's a terrible situation. But you guys stuck to your policy, and I agree, you can't start bending, especially something like that, or you're going to have a lot of problems. I guess I want to say thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks, Norma. Okay. Anybody else? If not, then mayor's report. I got this weekend is a big time in our town. We've got the Big Four Fair coming. I was out for a walk yesterday afternoon, and Mike Krukenberg stopped, and we had talked. He was just leaving the fairgrounds, and this has become quite a fair. He told me that there is, as far as dairy, there's 190 entries. Beef cattle, there's 150, and they've got more hogs than I think they've ever shown because of the way they changed the rules on the hogs. So, I mean, this is a big deal. It really is. And so if you guys get time and you just hopefully the weather's good, and just go on up and go through the barns and talk to folks, and it's a great time in our town. That draws a lot of people in, and
There's gonna be a parade, right?
we got a parade coming Friday night.
We're seeing
With
lots
the
of
dairy as well, right?
Yeah,
What's that?
it's the dairy days as well, Hamilton
yeah.
County. So we're seeing quite a few entries coming in. So
Yeah.
See, there's
Should be a good
really ice cream
turnout.
with some bags, too.
So to get that going, and yeah, hopefully everything goes off good. But well, that's a lot of entries. So wish them all well. And I see this. There's a plaque in front of me here, and it's presented to our Postville Police Department for excellence in law enforcement policy management. And there it is.
Cool.
Yeah.
too. And we'll put it in the paper. Can't
Well,
we
we
do
can,
that?
we can do that, sure.
Yeah.
We got the guy here, by God.
Oh, that is. I didn't even think of that, John. You're right there.
Yeah.
Go
ahead and do that.
Sure,
Yeah.
probably should get it out of here.
I'll let you have my spot.
Do I have to get up?
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of like you're excited about this.
Felt good after 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
2 hours, I guess it was.
There you go. Ready?
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm gonna zoom in on that plaque so I can read it. There you go.
Great.
Yeah. There you go. All right, I'm done. Council members, you guys got anything to say?
Just like to reiterate on that fair thing. I mean, that's probably as many entries as you see in the county fairs, if not more, just by having what we do as a pre-show. I mean, it back when Colin showed already, you know, it was a good way for the kids and the animals both to get used to what was going on before the shows. And it's, I mean, I'd like to see something more at some point go along with it, whether it's Taste of Postville or something, just to get a bigger crowd there. I mean, it's free entertainment. And I mean, 2 years in a row, they had high dollar bands and nobody, I mean, and it's still great entertainment that they have, but I mean, you aren't going to go anywhere and find as good or better entertainment for free as what's up there. That we're really doing a disservice to ourselves by not supporting that and getting a crowd up there.
And that band they're bringing in Friday, I'm familiar with. They played at Heydays in Monona last year. They're very good.
Okay.
Really
I
good.
thought I
Yeah.
recognized that.
Smoking Gun Showdown, I think,
Yeah.
is Friday night. Is that right?
Yep.
I have a comment too about the Carolyn Livingood thing. I voted no only because of a personal relationship, and I felt like I should have recused myself, but we have 3 people only, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think we did the right thing, but
Well, like Norma said, it's tough, you know, but you just, the policy's there for a reason. you
Yeah,
know,
that's
and,
like Darcy said, if we give them a break on there, then everybody wants one when something happens.
yeah, because it's not pretty around here anyway most days, and then you add that to it, it'll get worse. So,
Except for the office personnel, right?
yeah, it's tough.
At one
Yeah.
time, was there, maybe I'm thinking something different, Darcy, but was there a company at one time that was trying to promote an insurance or something that the homeowner could buy? Was that for something along those lines or
there
not?
is it's a water line warranty. There is
Okay.
that people can buy for.
But I think since it was running and that she didn't know it was running, she never probably goes down there very often.
But I think that covered some of that kind of stuff, didn't it?
Yeah,
That
there is insurance you can buy for that. Mhm.
I don't know if it's
Probably
something we
cheaper just
revisit
to check
ever or
on
not,
it.
but or how, I mean,
It's something they have to buy
Right.
on their own. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, we could probably give them some
Right.
information
Right.
if they want.
or
it.
put it in billings or
Yeah.
somehow get it out to word again, because it is one of those things you don't think about until all of a
Until you need
sudden there's a $1,000 bill, you know, it's,
Yeah.
I figured it up over 11 months of what her
You
normal
bet.
bill would be.
Yeah. Was.
So the payment plan that her 94.77 or
10
whatever
months
is in
worth, yeah.
addition to the 75.
Yeah.
Devorah, anything? No?
She's a quiet one.
She
I
is.
make up for her.
Yeah.
She's a researcher that fills us in.
She
I know, and I'll
does.
She
tell
did a
you
lot of that
good.
research behind the scenes for us.
I thought it was good that I read every word on this back.
Right. Anybody else? Not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those say no. Carried. Thanks to everybody. Laura, do you want to see the pass around?
Thanks
First
for
Paul
coming.
wasn't finding that on there. And then